Well, good afternoon everybody. You find me feeling in equal parts blessed and smug because there's very nice folk at Frasers of Gloucester have thrown me the keys to 2020 Kawasaki H2 SX. I asked for this one, they didn't volunteer it for me. I asked for it because the last bike I've ridden was with the Kawasaki Z1000 SX, and I was curious basically to see if there's any comparison between the two. Would they be on the same shopping list? Well, I could burst that bubble right now. I think first impressions, very first impressions, because I've been on the bike less than 5 minutes, is no. The riding position on this bike is a lot different to the SX. On the 1000 SX, the riding position is very, well, not very upright, not adventure bike upright, but it is quite upright and the handlebars are quite close to you. Well, for this bike there's a definite lean forward, and the handlebars are more of a conventional kind of a clip-on position. I think the old journalistic term was a semi-sporting crouch. I think that sums up this riding position very well. Semi-sporting crouch. The pegs feel a bit higher, or the seat's a bit lower. Basically the relationship between the seat and the pegs on this bike it's all a bit tighter. I was on this same road with the Z1000 SX a couple of days back, and on that SX I took a kind of a twisty little road to Stonehouse, little town nearby. I think that road's a little bit too Mickey Mouse for this bike, so I think the first thing I'm going to do is take it up the motorway for a junction, just to see what it's like sat at a cruising speed. So I'm in 6th at this possibly incorrect speed. It says 85. Look how slow I'm passing this mobile home. This is not 85 miles an hour. There's no way. What's the riding like here at motorway speed anyway? I'm keeping up with the traffic, but my helmet is getting a little bit of buffeting here. Now when I was riding the Z1000 SX the other day, I could not figure out cruise control. I pressed the cruise control button, which is just there, and a little white indicator come up on the dash, but it wouldn't hold speed, it would just slow down if I let the throttle off. I was doing it here as well. There's something fundamental I'm missing about cruise control, I think. Ah, there it is. I just worked it out. You press the cruise control button, and I've just realised the word set on the slow down button, and when I press that, the word setting green appears on the dash, and now I'm at cruise control. How do I turn the cruise control off? Yeah, just push the little square cruise control button that disables the cruise. Oh, I wish I'd worked that out on the 1000 SX, but we're there now. So yeah, like I said, after the 1000 SX, I'm just wondering what the H2 SX would be like to ride if they are somewhat similar. And the answer is no, they're not really similar at all. So if both these bikes are on your shopping list, then take them both out, because they are rather different. Gotta say, I do seem to have a bit more noise in my crash helmet than I'm used to. This time I'm confident I got my neck warmer. It's really a noise reducer in the right position. Not much buffeting, not much. Feel it knocking around my shoulders a little bit. Helmet's a bit calmer. Ah, yeah, okay. As I move my helmet, I move my head around, I bring it down a little bit, it's noisier in the crash helmet. I bring it up, it goes a bit quieter. So there's something to figure out there in terms of helmet noise and possibly buffeting. On this standard model, the quick shifter is an option, and it's standard on the SE and the SE Plus, but it's not on this bike. Golly. It pulls very hard, but it's very smooth at the same time. There is a little bit of a tingle through the bars. Can you believe Kawasaki's got the balls to actually even make this bike? Let alone make a family of these bikes with a balls out heavy sports bike, a sports tourer and a naked bike. Oh, it's a bit jerky coming on the throttle just then. In that instance, I was just leaning in and I was off the throttle. As I brought the throttle back on again, I didn't think I was being cack-handed with it, but there's a fair jerk there. Oh, it just accelerates so sweetly. I think possibly the look of this bike is scaring vehicles in front. I think if you're on this bike, a lot of people will kind of keep jumping out of your way. This bike is not a lightweight by any stretch. I think, I'll correct myself if I'm wrong, I think it was a 254 kilos, maybe 259 kilos wet. So it feels, feels on the heavy side. Ponderous? I don't know yet. I'll have to wait till I get the bike on some twisters. Just doing this little bit of slow bimbling, doing this in third gear, which is probably not the cleverest. I'm doing 4,000 RPM. I'm just playing with the rolling on the throttle from 0, and yeah, it's a little bit jumpy, just a little bit snatchy. I take it this bike doesn't come with the economy indicator like I've seen on a couple of other Kawasaki's recently. No. One-handed cruising like that, as I was just lifting the visor off and using the throttle to slow down, speed up a bit, it's a little, because of the snatchiness, this feels a little awkward, but you can probably get used to it. I suspect you can. I'm in fifth. I'm just bimbling 50 miles an hour on the clock, which I suspect is more like 40. If you wind it on from these lower revs, there's not really a sense that there's a supercharger in there piling in the fuel. I think you have to wait until you're a bit higher up in the rev range. And with this bike, I suspect, because of the speed it can generate, I think it'll gather speed so quickly if you try and make a quick overtake. You will have to be aware of the speed you're doing and the consequences if something pulls out in front of you kind of further up the road, or there's a bend coming. This bike accelerates bloody quickly. I'm on full power throttle at the moment. Now you're not going to be able to see this because of the way that the dash is designed. It's quite dark, I think. In the top right hand corner of the LCD dash it says power and it says F underneath. There are 3 throttle maps, L, M and F, low, mid and full power, I would presume. shall we? The superchargers, you see the power builds, and the ballistic kind of sensation you thought you might be getting with a supercharged bike doesn't appear to happen until you're higher up the rev range. So you don't really get ballistic acceleration at 6,000 or 8,000. I think it's nearer 10 where it starts to go silly. But it's addictive. The only problem is, to get to the most enjoyable bit, your riding has to be a little bit fruity. I don't ride a bike with a semi-sporting riding position very often. I do feel I have to kind of look up. Not very much. But my helmet's kind of tilted down more than I'm used to. Not by a lot. It's just a little bit alien for me. On this bike, I don't know for a fact, but I don't think, because it's got the basic LCD dash, we haven't got a boost gauge. So I don't know when the boost kind of starts to kick in, when it starts to spool up. It would be interesting to know, but that's where the SE and the SE Plus comes in with their TFT dashes. They have got a boost gauge. It doesn't feel difficult to ride at all. Very pleasant to ride for a kind of a weighty sports bike. Sports tourer, sorry. Third gear, just waiting for an opportunity to make some progress, and watch out for other cars overtaking like that van. Oh dear, absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's it certainly goes into certainly goes into hyperspace when the revs get up there. Wow. Wow. It's amazing how it makes that acceleration so painless. I suppose the fairing's got something to do with that. You're not having to really hang on. You're accelerating. I think that's possibly the hardest I've ever accelerated. And it felt very fast, but also very in control. Now that is a recipe for disaster as far as my driving license is concerned, I think. I don't even have people letting me by. I wasn't even looking to overtake. He said, "Come on." Did we get a bit of this? Oh, we do. Look at this. I might even do the truck. Yeah, that absolutely annihilates traffic. Brakes are strong, not grabby. That's good. Yeah, fortunately, if you get this bike, if the opportunity arises, you'll be spending a lot of time doing this. F me. Fourth gear is a very handy gear. So far, well, I've only had, I guess I've been on the bike an hour now. Still comfortable. There is a bit more weight on my wrist than I'm used to, but it's by no means an extreme riding position, certainly not. If you have longer legs than me, then perhaps you might have an issue with the old knees, especially if you're a bit older. So if my thigh went out there a bit further and then come back a bit longer, if I was like a 34-inch inside leg or something, you might find the rear sets make for a bit of a tight riding position. But even at 32 inches, it's not uncomfortable, but yeah, it feels a little tight. Oh, just wound on the throttle just ever so slightly from 3 to 4. I do think I feel a little bit of boost down here. I think I feel a bit of forced induction going on, but yeah, the boost builds as the revs get higher. So you don't get loads of torque here at the bottom or near the bottom. It's good, it's efficient, and I haven't ridden a Super Duke R or a Tuono 1100 or a Ducati Street Fighter for that matter. The Super Duke, I imagine, certainly would have more torque at its 4,000 RPM for its big V-twin engine than I have at my 4,000 RPM. I think that would fire forward on a bit of a twist of the throttle compared to this. Look ahead, don't look at me. Fourth gear, you have to keep a lid on that. That is crazy. That gets down the road real quick. It's a bit jumpy on and off the throttle. Unfortunately, it happens. Seems to happen kind of everywhere. It's just a little bit touchy. Oh, that picks up speed so quick. But yeah, fourth gear around A roads. That is formidable. Now I see the point of a supercharger. But part of me was a tad disappointed that the kind of torque that you can sense at 9 grand, you don't get at 5 or 4. Was hoping for big torque at lower revs from a supercharged engine. It's not quite like that. Actually, let's wind that back a bit. The reason why I would have preferred a bit more torque at lower revs, well, that's down to my personal habit, I think. I like to sometimes just cruise in 6th gear and then just wind on the power. And on this bike, winding it on in 6th will be a little bit sedate from low revs, you know, until the torque builds. So what I'm saying then, basically, the bike's got a power band, like an O2 stroke. But it's not gutless. Good thing it's not gutless at low revs. It's just more like a conventional inline 4. Yes, it's a sports tourer. Yes, it's meant to kind of do loads of miles in relative comfort with a big powerful engine. But when you're messing about with 4th and 5th gear on A roads like this and bigger ones, that's where this bike really shines. Really shines. And now I figured that out, I want more. So with the snatchy throttle notwithstanding, it's quite happy at low speeds, as far as I can tell. The mirrors have fizzed a little bit, but they are relatively clear. They have been pretty clear so far during the ride. Oh, my fuel gauge is flashing now. So there isn't actually like a yellow warning light amongst the other warning lights, but the LCD dash is flashing. I do wish it was a bit more obvious than just this white on black LCD dash flashing with a small kind of indicator in the bottom left hand corner. Wish it was a bit clearer than that, but it's not, so I have to suck it up. You do feel a little bit like an apex predator on this bike. You are faster than most of the things on the road. And unfortunately, during the honeymoon period, you'll have the overwhelming desire to demonstrate that speed. Oh, well, that is one of the highest quality petrol hinges, or petrol cap hinges, I've ever had the pleasure to fondle. Very nice. We have got traction control, hadn't mentioned that. 3 levels of traction control. Has got its own separate little button down on the bars there. I think I'm in traction control level 2. I've got no real desire to mess about with it at the moment. Get out of 4th gear, you get yourself into trouble. Yeah, very very Moorish, that 4th gear. Let's get into 6th and have a bit of... Oh, it's not letting me put cruise on. Am I pressing the wrong button? Wrong button. And that's the beauty, especially for bikes with you know, clip-ons and a sporty riding position. Having cruise control just lets you sit back for a minute and just chill out before you plug yourself back into that riding position and destroy some more traffic. Blackbird, the old king of the hill. The old fastest sports tourer. Things have moved on a bit, haven't they? So here we are, 2020 Kawasaki Ninja H2 SX. And it is the bladed article, I can tell you. We're knocking on the door 200 PS, I think, 200 horsepower. And looking pretty darn mean in this colour scheme. It seemed to me like cars were kind of jumping out of my way when I come up behind them. You can kind of see why. So on the SE Plus model, you get Brembo Stylema calipers. On the standard version we have here, and the SE, you get these calipers, Kawasaki branded. Still radial, still 4-piston calipers, biting down on 320mm discs. So you haven't really got any issues with brakes. They are strong enough. The upside down forks are 43mm. Both forks and shock are adjustable for preload, rebound and compression. And here is a handy preload adjuster on the back. Just down there, you just have enough space to get a screwdriver in there to make some adjustments. And there's your supercharger, your big airy love box. And it's ridiculously quick. There's your rear lights, LEDs, they look decent enough. On the rear, there's a twin piston caliper, and it's chewing on a 250mm disc, and there is your single-sided spring and arm. Now on the higher spec models, you get this double cut effect where you get the bare alloy on show but lacquered. But it's pretty good. Might benefit from a smaller exhaust cam though. Sturdy set of grab handles there. They come complete with mounting points for your luggage. If you're going for Kawasaki luggage, that is. Good. Yeah, and the general fit and finish, as I'm peering down under here, is all very nice looking. Seems built to a high spec. Oh, you have to forgive my cameras being in the way there. Yeah, good looking brackets. Nothing looked noddy. Certainly a better build quality by the looks of it than my BMW, I'll tell you that. I have to finish this ride off now. Get the bike back home. So let's play with fourth gear again. I mean, let's just ride sensibly back to the shop. Yeah. Very nice clutch release there. It's a nice biting point. Nice engagement. That's very pleasing. No problems with heat on this ride. Doesn't seem to be trying to roast my legs, which is nice. I have heard the fan go a couple of times at standstills, and it might be a problem on a longer ride or higher temperatures. All I can say is she didn't get too sweaty on the first day. Oh yeah, it is a shame about this throttle. Just down here, I'm going downhill, and I felt like I just wound it on a slight, a tiny bit. But it seemed to give me just a little bit more power than I wanted. It just accelerated a little bit more than I expected. It's a bit of a shame. I imagine it could get mapped out on a dyno and with an ECU flash. But that's not cheap. But I imagine if you're buying this bike, you'll have a bit of extra money to throw at it anyway. The back brake, by the way, feels rather weak. Tried it a few times early on, and it took quite a press to kind of get it to reduce speed. Not sure why that might be. Oh, outside temperature, very nice, 23 degrees it's telling me. Not sure where the sensor is. 23 feels about right, but still not being boiled by the bike. So something with so much power, that's pretty impressive. Your mileage may vary, you might ride this in hotter conditions, the fan's kicking out heat all the time, who knows. I'm impressed with the suspension. Yeah, it does feel quite plush. Not soft, but it deals with the bumps nicely. There's not many shocks, if you pardon the pun, when you go over potholes, and there's quite a few on the roads nowadays, as you know. I hadn't mentioned the gear lever action, have I? Good. Positive. You do feel a bit of a snick. In fact, I've mostly forgotten about it. It's quite an effective gear change. It does feel more positive than the 1000 SX that I rode. That felt a little bit mushy, a little bit indistinct when you kind of were changing gears. Would I go on a second date? Almost forgot to ask this question. Absolutely. However, I think I'd like to go on a second date with a higher spec sister, the SE or the SE Plus, because I would like to play with the electronics and the phone connectivity. But the basics of the chassis and particularly the engine, absolutely fantastic. That was a hell of a ride. So thanks for hanging out with me on my little first date with the SX. Wouldn't mind a bit more SX if the opportunity arose. Right, this is Ricky Tang. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you in another video.